a career where every day you get to intimately connect with people at their most vulnerable. A career where complete strangers open up to you entirely, and you're blessed to be able to deeply touch others and be touched yourself in return. Doesn't that sound amazing? It was always the career that I wanted. But the harsh reality is that becoming an adult film star has a huge barrier to entry. So I went into medicine instead, which was the next best thing. And I was actually pretty good at it. For the better part of a decade, I was practicing at a prestigious institution that rhymed with Afghanistan, FERD. And I had it all. The house on the hill, the 401k, an Acura, the shirt with the alligator on it. So one day my daughter came to me and she was wearing my stethoscope. And she said, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor like you so I can help people." And I was overcome. And I knelt in and I took a deep breath because I wanted to get this right. And I said, "Honey, do you know why Daddy takes those hour-long showers after work every day? It's because it's the only place where Daddy can cry and no one will see him. Now take that stethoscope off, it's covered with bacteria, and go to your room." See, because like so many other physicians, the thought that my daughter might follow in my footsteps was horrifying to me, because I had gone into medicine with all the best intentions. I played by all the rules, I checked all the boxes, and then when I arrived at what was supposed to be a fulfilling career, when I looked in the mirror, all I saw was a disconnected, burned out zombie with a stethoscope covered in bacteria. What happened to me? I just wanted to be a rock star when I was in school, yo. I had the guitar. I had the mullet. What I was lacking, though, was one thing that in those days was a prerequisite for fame, and that was something they used to call talent. And so again, on to plan B, which was medicine. And I wish I could have blamed my parents for, pushing me into medicine, but actually they did try to warn me. They're both doctors. In fact, my dad is a foreign medical graduate, or as they're known these days, a primary care physician. And I know it's pretty funny, he's Indian, which means I'm Indian. Because, you guys were like, "Yo, ZDogg, you must be black." No, not quite Indian. But my dad was really old school. I thought I was black, too. It didn't. My dad's old school, all touch and intuition. One time I asked him about ultrasound, and he said, "Ultrasound? What do you think, money grows on trees? Why do you think my ears are so big? Because I listen." I was like, "So, you take a good history?" I said, "I listen. Watch this." And he went up to a pregnant woman's belly, and he went, "Ah!" It is a boy. Roughly 7 weeks. And I was like, "That is pretty dope, Dad. I want to be a general medicine doc like you." And he said, "Don't talk rubbish, general medicine. Listen, Babu, don't make the mistake I made. This system does not pay you to think. It does not pay you to prevent disease. It pays you to do things to people, preferably to their rectums. Babu, there are 5,000 rupees in everybody's colon. Just go with the scope and take it out. Do GI, become a specialist." And with that advice, I began medical school. And it turns out medical school is a lot like Hogwarts. They pluck you out of regular society. They teach you that you are different from the muggles or non-medical folk. Instead of owls, we use pagers, which are somehow more archaic than owls. We do potions, defense against the dark arts. How do you think I got this scar? I'm the doc who lived, yo. And we're taught the magical medical words like tenesmus, which of course means the urge to poop your pants. And speaking of poop your pants, this one time in microbiology class, our professor actually made us bring in our own stool samples to culture. And of course, it was one of these new things in medical education, learn by pooing. And so we were, of course, completely humiliated. Each of us had heads down, totally like, we'd each brought in the tiniest possible quanta of feces, wrapped in all this brown paper with a big biohazard sticker on it, hidden under our coat. And then in walks one of our classmates, and she's holding aloft a mason jar, into which she had dumped the entire contents of her morning constitutional. Everybody in the room was disgusted, not with the jar, but with themselves for having each brought in such a woefully inadequate specimen by comparison. And that's when the mad rush to the bathroom began, because, it was on. So suffice it to say, by the time we emerge from this, we are not innocent muggles anymore. We are hardened and scarred and racked with tenesmus. But I still held on to the hope that one day I'd have a fulfilling career, the light at the end of the tunnel, I'd be able to help people and do all those things that I went into medicine to do. And scooping cash out of someone's colon wasn't on the list. And after that mason jar, the poo to pay ratio just wasn't happening. So, in an act of rebellion, I ignored my dad's advice, and therefore, I became my dad. General medicine. And for nearly 10 years, a typical day in my life went something like this. It begins with a mad scramble from room to room, seeing complicated, sick, and scared patients and their families, followed by 3 hours of paperwork using an electronic medical record that's 2 keystrokes away from becoming sentient and destroying humanity, all the while answering phone calls from insurance companies, colleagues, and administrators, each asking that I do more and more with less and less, while improving quality and patient satisfaction. And speaking of which, that patient for whom I refused Vicodin because I was convinced it was destroying his life just ripped me a new one on Yelp. And I get through my 31st voicemail, and I'm trying to delete it, and it won't delete, and I'm thinking I have to call IT now, and then I realize the reason it won't delete is that it's a live person I'm talking to. And it's my wife. And she's asking me to come home. And when I finally do get home, I can't be present with my 2 little girls because all I can think about is, could I have missed something in this insane shuffle that could hurt or kill somebody? Lather, rinse, repeat for an entire career. That's when I came up with the idea for the empathy robot. The tagline was, "It cares, so you don't have to." It was simple. Disney has animatronics. I figured we just scan the faces of pediatricians because they're the best at pretending to care. And you program in the patient's name in the back with the diagnosis, and in the empathy robot goes, and you can go finish your paperwork. Something like this. Greetings, Mr. Williams. I understand from my review of the chart that you are suffering from gout. This must be exquisitely painful. My sensors indicate that you are in some degree of denial about your diagnosis. For anger, press 1. For bargaining, press 2.
Para español, oprime el número 3.
And that brings me back to the house on the hill and the zombie with the stethoscope in an alligator shirt. Enough was enough. I realized I had a choice to make. I could either submit to this insane system and retire and do my thing, but have my soul crushed and join the ranks of the swelling physician zombie apocalypse, or I could surrender. Just give up the external validation, drop the mask, and really surrender to who I actually was and have some hope of reconnecting to my purpose. Luckily, there was choice C, which is sit around in my underwears eating Ben & Jerry's and watching YouTube videos all day. And I did that, and somewhere between Charlie bit my finger and dramatic look gopher, it struck me, you no longer needed talent to reach thousands of people. So I rushed right out, I got a handy cam, I fired up the PC, I started editing, recording, shooting, just going nuts, and it was a complete disaster. Nothing worked. Then I got a Mac. "60 videos later and nearly 1 million views, ZDoggMD is in the house." Now, how did this happen? If you watch, say, our safe sex rap anthem, Pull and Pray, which is something like, yo, this ain't no gusher like BP, it's a drip, drip from the tip of your PP, and S to the TD. If you watch that, what you'll realize is something is still true. I do indeed still not have talent. However, what I did have was something maybe more important. I hooked up with a med school buddy, Dr. Harry, who's a pediatrician, and what we had was something that was rare on YouTube, and that is we were doctors. We had some credibility, and we could actually reach patients where they were instead of asking them to come to us. Really engage them. This was a huge opportunity. But what really surprised us is our videos about being a doctor. Those were the ones that got the biggest response. Videos like, "It's a hard doc's life for us." That got like 120,000 views. So it turns out I wasn't alone in feeling powerless in the system. In fact, 82% of doctors feel powerless to affect the system. Barely half would do it again if given the chance. Half would go into medicine if given the chance. And most shockingly, nearly 74% think culottes are the same as shorts. What is wrong with the culture of medicine, and how do we fix it? Well, it turns out I know this guy, Tony Hsieh. He happens to be an expert on culture. He built a company called Zappos into a $1 billion+ company on the premise that if you get the culture right, everything else will follow. And so I sent him a bunch of videos, and I told him about the pending physician zombie apocalypse, and I got no response at all because it all went into his stalker email box. But then one day he suddenly reached out to tell me a strange and wondrous tale. He said he was moving Zappos from the suburbs to the heart of downtown Las Vegas. Not the Strip, not Carrot Top and Wayne Newton, downtown Las Vegas. Empty lots, quirky bars, and a burgeoning community that nobody knows about. The real Las Vegas. Why? Because he'd been studying cities, and he realized that productivity and innovation increase when people collide in dynamic, dense urban environments. And he thought, why isolate Zappos in a walled-off community somewhere? Bring them and plop them right into the heart of the city where they can benefit from and contribute to the revitalization of the community. And he was putting millions of his own money into this to curate the development of arts, residential, small business, tech. His new company, Downtown Project, was aiming to turn Sin City into Sim City and do it in record time. Because as he says, in our lifetimes, 75% of humans will live in cities. So if we fix cities, we sort of fix the world. The only thing missing from his plan was a little something called healthcare. And it turns out Nevada has some of the worst in the nation. So this was his proposal. Quit your job, move your family to Las Vegas, and head up our healthcare efforts. And I was like, what healthcare efforts? And he's like, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. And I was like, what? I have a 401k. 401k? I can't give that up. I'm a doctor. So I turned to my dad, because that's what I do when I'm scared. I said, Dad, what should I do? He's like, this guy wants you to move to the desert to sell some shoes for Zappos? I was like, no, it's not quite like that. Listen, don't take risk. You are a doctor. I need to tell your uncles you are a doctor. Do you remember what happened when I took a risk and I developed that curry and masala enema? It was very effective, but nobody bought it. Dad, that's because you cannot call an enema the ethnic cleanse. It's just not cool. But Game face, people. I began to realize, though, that my dad, myself, countless other doctors across the country had the same mindset. Our years of training had this horrible side effect because each step of our lives was laid out for us for years. And if we just kept our head down, followed the rules, we'd progress to the next step. But each time we did that, we lost a bit of our autonomy. We lost a bit of our ability to take risk. We lost a bit of who we were. And by the time we arrive at our destination, we find a system that is so abhorrent to who we really are, and yet we can't stop playing the game of learned powerlessness, deference to authority, a shuffling zombie denial. And when I realized that, I did something that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I actually chose real surrender. And when I told my family that real surrender meant moving from the Bay Area to Las Vegas, they were super thrilled. Vegas, baby! But seriously, we are now a year into our adventure in Las Vegas. And what have we done? We are now planning to open a radical new primary care wellness center. We're collaborating with disruptive innovators from Iora Health, an amazing startup out of Boston headed by a Harvard doc named Rashika Fernandapola. Our model is predicated on the idea that medicine is about human relationships. So let's tear the barriers down to those relationships, fix the reimbursement system, take insurance out of primary care. It has no business there. Make it an affordable flat fee that incentivizes everyone to keep everybody well. Revolutionize the care model and the culture of the team. Health coaches, nurse practitioners, doctors, and patients working together collaboratively, non-hierarchically, to change the health of the whole community. And glue it together with technology that helps rather than obstructs. What a concept. Do things for people instead of to people. And if you fix primary care well, you kind of fix the entirety of medicine. So when I told my dad, Pops, I'm going to be speaking at Tedmed, and I'm going to tell them all to come to Vegas and spend 72 hours with us and see what we're doing. And he said, Tedmed, huh? Let me guess. You're going to put a blazer and some jeans, and you're going to start calling yourself a thought leader. Well, first you had better get some thoughts. That was hard for me, the thoughts part, but I do have a few. It's really easy to be inspired when I'm in a room with you guys because every single one of you is passionate and driven and working to change the world. But out there are hundreds of thousands of us equally passionate, driven, creative, loving people, our doctors, our nurses, our frontline healthcare providers, upon whose all too human shoulders falls the increasing weight of caring for the nation. And so what really inspires me is the idea that one day they might wake up and realize they are strong. And shedding this illusion of powerlessness, they will reconnect with their passion and their purpose, and they will rise. And when they do, the very foundations of this broken system will tremble. And that, my friends, is an idea worth smearing, spreading. Dang it. Thank you very much. Oh.